Although I've been covering games here on EP since Super Mario RPG first appeared on the Super Nintendo system, I didn't really gravitate towards that cartridge for the SNES back then because I had already made the move to the N64 and the PlayStation and the Saturn. I had totally jumped on board the 3D gaming craze at that point, and even though Super Mario RPG looked like a charming SNES game, I really wasn't taken to it. So suffice to say, this is really my first time playing through the game, and I do really dig this game, and I can see why it has become this favorite, this revered favorite for so many massive Nintendo fans out there. It's incredibly charming. It's also incredibly weird, this game. It's so strange that Mario partners up with a Pinocchio-like character named Gino and a marshmallow tadpole-like character named Mallow, as well as Bowser and Princess Peach. And so the 5 of these different characters go on this crazy journey where they're trying to defeat this giant sword that has crashed through a castle and sent all kinds of star pieces scattered throughout the land, and these guys want to put these star pieces together to create the Star Road so that wishes can be made again. It's very Disney-esque in some ways, the storytelling in this game, and the music, by the way. The music is unbelievable in this title, and you've got modern music as well as classic music, but the game also definitely has flavors of the Square Enix RPGs. It's not as deep and rich with story as something that you might find in the Final Fantasy games from the Super Nintendo era, but it moves in that direction using the kind of character iconography of the Mario universe, which is cool, although different types of characters. You're going to be fighting sharks with spears, or mutated frog monsters, or little spiky creations that are a little bit different from some of the Koopa Troopas that you might have seen in previous games. You might square off against evil-looking court jesters, or spooky-looking undead creations of all kinds of shape and variety. There's a lot of imaginative creature design in this, and what's cool about this new iteration of the game is that there's this monster list that you are checking off, and you're getting little details about all the critters that you're going to meet along the way. There's also a journal, which gives you an instant kind of connection to what's been happening in the plot and in the story as you go along, and it's told from Gino and Mallow's perspective, which is kind of fun as well. And the visuals, I think, are very evocative of the Super Nintendo experience, but they are modernized. It reminds me a little bit of the toy-like Link's Awakening game that came out for the Switch a little while ago, which I loved. It's kind of in that vein, although maybe not quite as stylish and quite as beautiful. And part of that is kind of the world design and the constraints of making an RPG, which is fashioned around all of these different characters using their combat abilities and this constant sort of dialogue tree that's happening. And so the world is obviously quite different from the Link's Awakening experience, but there are some parallels there. Everything does look very toy-like, and you'll actually fight characters that are obsessed with toys, and you'll see little toy creations of your characters as well as some other Nintendo characters. There's also lots of cool little Easter eggs, and what Nintendo has done with this title is given you some pretty cool post-game content so you can go back and mix and match with some of these tough bosses that you'll encounter along the way. You're basically fighting, at the boss stages, you're basically fighting living weapons, and they're pretty challenging, but generally this game is pretty straightforward and fairly easy. It's on the easier side. You can even go to an easier mode if you want to have the easiest level so you can play it with kids or something. But I didn't really find it that difficult to play through. Most of the fights I got through for the first time. I think I only got the game over screen once because I miscalculated on some of the attacks that I was pulling off. And as far as the attacks go, they are very different from each of the 5 characters. You can only fight with 3 at a time. And so you've got Bowser with poison clouds that he can drop. He also, with his attack moves, walks up and kind of slaps people, but later on you actually pick up Mario and throw them at the bad guys, which is pretty funny. Mario has hammers, he's got a shell that he can kick at people, and then with special abilities he can do super jumps and ultra jumps on top of bad guys and throw fireballs. Peach has the ability to heal individual characters or everyone on the party with a group hug, and she's got a parasol that she can whack people with. Mallow's got sticks and cymbals and lightning attacks. Gino has a handgun for whatever reason, you actually get a handgun for Gino, and you're blasting bullets and then laser blasts and wave blasts and stuff like that. So everybody plays quite differently, and you can switch characters out in the middle of combat or when one of the characters faints or falls, and you can bring characters back to life with some of the elixirs and potions and things that you can pick up along the way. You can also outfit the characters with better armor and better weapons as you progress in the storyline. But I do have to say, there's a couple things about this game that I wish were modernized, or I wish were updated. And it's very true, as far as I understand, it's very true to the core experience of playing the original game, which isn't a bad thing at all. A lot of people haven't played this game in a long time and they love it, and a lot of people have never experienced this game, and I think they're gonna love it. But I think one of the things that could have made a huge difference with this game is the ability to customize the characters a little bit more, to give them different costumes. And when you're changing shirts or changing weapons and stuff, they're just little status items inside of the menus, as opposed to having any kind of on-screen representation. And I think that's an opportunity lost on the part of Nintendo. It would have been really fun. It's always fun to customize your characters. And as I've watched my kid really come to love video games, that's her favorite thing in games often, is the ability to just change the look of the characters. And it would have been cool to be able to do that. I also think it's a missed opportunity for us not to be able to automatically switch back to the look of the original Super Mario RPG to do some compare and contrast. And I think they could have done that because they did that with the music. Now, obviously, that would have added to the technology and the expense of making this game. But even, with quibbles and complaints and the fact that it's not a massive RPG, it's not very long, it's going to take you probably less than 15 hours to see everything that you want to see in this game. I mean, there's replayability in there, there's secrets to find and things like that for sure. But it's certainly not the biggest RPG of 2023. But it is a really fun RPG. It really does hook you in. You really do want to keep exploring. You want to see you find as many of the secrets as you can in that first playthrough, and you love all the Nintendo touches and the nostalgic kind of vibe of the whole experience. I really enjoyed it. It's tough that it's come like a couple of weeks after the phenomenal Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which this doesn't stack up to, and I don't think it's quite as good either as Link's Awakening if you're trying to look at a retro kind of remake, but it certainly opens up the conversation about what other types of SNES remakes Nintendo and its partners could do. But honestly, I've been thinking about it, and in the Super Nintendo was like this perfect realization of that 16-bit pixelated experience. It's really hard to think of what would be better modernized. Earthbound is one that comes to mind. I want to hear, though, from you guys. I want to hear what you think of this game, and also if you've got ideas on other Super Nintendo games that you think definitely should be made. I tweeted about this, and people were talking about Chrono Trigger, but the Super Nintendo was so magical. It was so freaking cool. I do think that Super Mario RPG deserved this remake for sure, and I like the look, I like the aesthetics, I like the play of this title. But it's hard for me to go, there's this whole essential catalog of Super Nintendo games that need to be modernized as well, even if this becomes a massive hit. I do think you should check this out if you're a Mario fan. I had a great time playing Super Mario RPG. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.